Hello and welcome to the Petticoated Swashbuckler. My name is Maren and today we are doing some hair. Toss toss. Okay, so I'm not immune to the circus. That is wicked. Sue me. Anyway, a month ago I went to Scotland to live out my 1830s dreams for a couple of days, and I learned a lot about my clothes when I was there. I learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work. I learned that you need a different kind of bonnet if it's really windy. I learned that safety pins really do not cut the mustard if you are trying to like put sleeve puffs into your dresses. I learned that you can fit more people in the back seat of a car than you think, despite the aforementioned sleeve puffs. And I also did a lot of hair. I did my own hair every day. I did the hair of my friends sometimes. And so as I returned to my native lands with this knowledge, I thought I'd share it. So what I will show you today is first a very simple sort of daytime, everyday hair look. I'll then show you how you can like make it a bit more evening, and then in the end I'll show you how you can make it absolutely bonkers, because what even are the 1830s if not the decade of crazy hair. So without further ado, let's do some hair. Alright, so the typical 1830s hair silhouette, if you like, the framework that we're working with is a lot of like volume or action happening around the face, very often curls but not exclusively curls, and then some height at like the top of your head. If you stand up straight and you can put like your finger on like the highest point on your head, that's where you want the height to be. This is a continuation of the 1700s hair, where you divide the hair into three sections: the front section, the kind of mid-up section, and the back section. It's a continuation of Regency hair, where you had the bun a little further like towards the back of the head because of bonnet shapes. I'll explain that in a minute. But still a lot of the kind of curls and the action in the front. And even in the 1830s, you sometimes see that kind of division into three bits of the hair, where you have the front hair curl, the middle hair is in a big kind of thing on top, and then the back hair is braided and looped up like in the 1700s. But mostly by the Regency period, you're down to a sort of division into two instead of three. So the front hair and the back hair. And the reason for these hairstyles is the bonnet. Not exclusively, but a big reason for why this becomes the way it does is the evolution of the shape of the bonnet. You do have bonnets in the 1700s as well. I've even made one. I'll insert a picture. And you can fit quite a big hairdo into those. But by the time you get to the Regency period, the bonnet is very much a sort of tube at the back of the head, and like a screen, like you put in your dog if they have an injury around the face. And then you need some volume to put inside your bonnet to keep it from falling off your head. And then you need something interesting around the face, because that's the only bit of your hair that's really seen when you're wearing a bonnet. Which most people, as far as I can tell, would wear a bonnet on like a daytime, everyday basis. If you're going out for errands, you're going to church or something like that, you would wear something on your head, probably most of the time some sort of bonnet. And the easiest way of like creating an 1830s look is by sectioning your hair like I've done here. I've divided my hair from ear to ear, and this bit here I've curled. This bit so far is just left like in a braid from last night. I can take it out now. You can curl, like creating those face framing curls. Easiest way to get that kind of look quickly, because it's just such an like iconic 1810s, 20s, 30s look, that those kind of curls around the face. You can curl your own hair. You can use, you know, heated curlers. You can use fake curled hair. That's not only practical, but also very historically accurate. I was going to see if I could find... Yeah, so these are very messy because I haven't recurled them since I got back. But these are my fake curls. And these are just, you know, the kind of, you can buy them online. They're not expensive at all, especially if you're cheap ass like me and you've bought fake hair. They're the clip-on bangs, and I've just curled them. And I can just, if I want to, put one on each side, and suddenly, I mean, I think I look like a bit like a dog, but it's a very 1830s kind of look with all of that poofiness high up. Ooh, get stuck. So that's 100% an option. You can use, like I said, you can use curling thongs. You can use rank curls. I've just used pin curls that I've slept with overnight. That's what I ended up using when I was in Scotland because my curling iron broke. I'm very lucky when I do hairstyles like this because my hair wants to be curly, and I'm very aware that that's a privilege. However, you can curl fairly fine hair if you curl it and you wind around the curling iron. You take it off, you spray it with hairspray, and you let it rest in like a curled little lump in your hand until it's cold. It will keep the curl better, so it's possible. There's a gazillion YouTube tutorials on how to curl hair. You don't need me to tell you that. I'm no expert because my hair is naturally curly. Anyway, what we want is we want some curly hair in the front, and the easiest way to do this, and for like a daytime look, you don't really even need to not sure which bit of my hair that was supposed to be part of. You don't really need to even curl the front hair. I'll show you a trick for that in a minute. What you can do for a daytime look is just gather your hair into a bun on the top. Now there's a few ways we can do that. You can just use your own hair and make like a knot. Even, you know, I have like semi-long hair, and it's very curly, but it's not very full. Can you see? It's a very sad little dot on top there. Nothing that will keep a bonnet on in a gale, I can tell you. So what I tend to do is to use one of these little donutty things. Mine's very warm. I've used it so much, so it's really like rickety and horrible. But I just plop it over. Obviously you use one that matches your hair colour. You try to sort of divide the hair you have over the donut a little bit. And then just tie down with an elastic. And the rest of the hair, you can do all sorts of stuff with it. You can braid it. I just wind it sort of around. I pop in. I have I'll show you later. I have a weird little side table situation going, and these lovely sleeves, and they are not friends. Or maybe they are two good friends, I don't know. Just pop a couple of these big pins in, and presto, we have a ball of hair. Now you can also, instead of those donut thingies, you can use this. This is a clip-on bun. It's got these little combs and some elastic, and you can use it instead of this, or in addition to it. I'll show you that later. For a daytime look, you can just leave, if you've got pin curls like me, you can just leave them like this, because if you put a cap on, you can add a lot of frilliness around the face to give that same effect. However, I'm gonna pretend like I have either done heat curlers or rag curls, in which case you need to take them out because they look kind of weird. or, as I am in fact doing, attaching some fake ones. You don't want them too high up. If you look at the portraits, they're like on the side of the face. They're almost down by the ears. So, one there, and then one down here. And there we go. It's quite cute. Now, of course, these do not look real for shits, because they've got these kind of ridges here where they end, basically. You can hide that. Using fake hair, using loose hair, is historically accurate, so you might just not be bothered. You can hide it with like the bit of my hair that I like wound around. You can add that, like cover them with that, or we can use a cap. And I love caps. I made 2 caps for this trip. I want more. Basically, I want more caps. They're brilliant. This one's actually a bad example because it's see-through, so you can see what's going on underneath if you look really closely. But you'll get the idea. We just pop that over a little bun at the top, and then we let the frilliness sort of rest against our curls, our face framing curls, and there we go. And this is a decent day look. This is fine. If you don't want to spend a lot of time doing your hair every morning, you can, and you need to do 1830s hair for some reason, you can curl your front hair or put on fake curls, make a bun, put on a cap, and you're good to go. And the cap can be trimmed up the wazoo. So instead of putting all that work into your hair every morning, you can put all that work into a cap once, and then you're like good to go for the rest of your life. Brilliant. And I like to call this my Jane Austen trick because I've read, like, I couldn't find it again. I'm 98% sure I've read in a letter that she wrote to someone once that she's so sick of like having to spend so much time on her hair in the morning that she has ordered a couple of caps made so that she can only curl like her front hair and then put the rest up in the back and put a cap on and be good to go. This is obviously not the hot and steamy 18-year-old Jane Austen. We're talking Jane Austen as a grown woman. But as I am, theoretically, a grown woman, works for me. Now, we are going to fancy up this shit. Because what if you need to go from daytime to evening time? All of us girls who grew up in like the 1990s, we grew up with I'm sure you remember if you're my age, all the magazine articles on how to turn a daytime look into a nighttime look. I never actually had to do it in like my real life. It's been less of a topic than all those magazines led me to believe. However, this is a look that we can go, like make go from daytime to evening time. We can just use these fake curls. I'm gonna take them out and like take out my real curls because I slept with pin curls in. I don't want it to go to waste. The curls, what they do is they give you something interesting to look at when you're wearing a bonnet, but in the evening, you're not necessarily wearing a bonnet. You might be wearing some other sort of cap thing if you're going out to like a ball or a dance, or if you're, you know, attending a party at a house you're staying in, you probably won't be wearing anything on your head other than like decoration, because you're gonna just dress for evening. You can of course curl. If you do this a lot, you can of course cut your fringe into a more sort of suitable length. But I rather like my hair being all the same length because it makes it so versatile. There we go. I now have lovely, natural face framing curls, and I do not have to worry about them having like a weird ridge kind of thing here. And in some portraits you can see them go almost all the way down here. In some portraits they're all sort of gathered up here. You do you. I'm just going to leave them like this now, because I've seen a lot, and especially if we move towards the 1840s, so like the late 1830s, these come down and become longer and longer, and in the end they're almost down to like your collarbone. And then you get the fashion of the swooped back, where you braid this bit of hair and you swoop it back over your ears, or like under your ears, but over your... I'll show you a picture. We can now add this one on top of the bun we already have, the clip-on bun, for extra height. That's lovely. There is some portraits of women with this sort of messy looking, very high curled bun. We can also add some braids, and that's very fashionable. You see that in a lot of portraits. So maybe like some braids that go around, and then this one needs to go in the back. So just some braids around our big bun thing. When you're doing stuff like this, I much prefer these kind of pins, because they are just so much more sturdy. But if you have thinner hair than mine, you might be alright with one of the regular ones. There we go. So this is an 1830s evening look. You don't have to worry so much about what's happening here, because you're not going to wear a bonnet, probably. But I could still fit, if I have like a decent sized bonnet, I could still fit it over this. So, you know. Now, I'm gonna literally crank it up. Because we're gonna need some more height. This is fine. This is a good look. You can, however, go absolutely bonkers. You can add even more curls. Add these bad boys back in. You can add more braid. I have this braided. This also has some curls. It's like a braided hair band thingy. And then you can add more height. And if you don't do it with your own hair, you can do it with someone else's hair. If you don't want to do it with hair, you can add ribbons, you can add flowers, feathers, lace, other kinds of frou-frou. You can add, you know, a big feather up in here. We can add some flowers. This is really the time in history to just go absolutely nuts when it comes to your hair. We can add a little bouquet, hyacinth bouquet, to, not sure where I'm gonna stick it. Okay, this one doesn't want to go in, but you can add like whatever you want. I could attach like a pin to this and just like pin it up here. You get, of course, the big Apollo knots, but you have to remember that when you're watching pictures of those, they are very rarely the actual hair of the actual woman that you're seeing the picture of. They are much more likely to be fake hair that's been glued onto a buckram frame and pre-shaped, and you can just plop it back on. So yeah, you can add a load. And of course, let's not forget, if you, like me, grew up on like low quality fancy television, and you've always wanted to wear a head necklace, this is the era when they are actually right, when they're actually true, when they were actually worn, and you can wear it on your head. And yes, I do know that they are actually called the ferronnier. Don't come at me. Actually, it's really funny why they're called the ferronnier. It's because of this painting, which was, and I don't think when it was made, I think it was later, it was called the ferronnier which basically because the model was supposed to be a blacksmith's daughter, and ferron or ferronnier means blacksmith. So it's really because she's wearing that head necklace and because her parents was a blacksmith, or her father was a blacksmith. And there we go, head necklace, ferronnier. When you're happy with the height and the massive curls and the level of crazy, you're done. You just look out for, you know, be mindful of low doorways and have fun. Now, there are, of course, many, much more historically accurate ways of recreating this hairdo. This was not meant to be historically accurate methods. Some of them are, like dividing the hair into a front part and the back part, but the main point of this video is to help you with some decent real-life tips and tricks to create the look and the feel and the silhouette of an historical updo, but like make it doable and fun and like you can do this on a budget. I don't know how much I've paid for these hair pieces, but I'd be very surprised if it's more than like $50 or £50. It's really, if you just Google clip-on bangs or clip-on bun, you'll be fine. So I hope you liked it. I hope you're inspired to go and get yourself very curly and silly hairdos. In the next video, I'm gonna give you a little treat and cook you an 1830s Christmas meal. But until then, bye!